He's got his hands up there for her now. Mike, I'm going to hit the recorder. This guy's still walking and following commands.
Not for taser, I think.
I've got a feeling that's about to happen.
That looks like a bad dude, too, to be honest. Something.
Which way are they facing?
Police 1, they're facing westbound. I think he may have just been tasered.
Shots fired!
Ooh.
321, we have shots fired. We have one suspect down.
Greetings, YouTube. This is the Garage Autonomist. I'm not about to use the current turmoil that's going on in my life right now as an excuse to be silent anymore. I do have to do this video and talk about Terence Crutcher now. Terence Crutcher is a 40-year-old African-American male. He was shot and murdered by police officer Betty Shelby in Tulsa Friday, September 16th. And the dash cam footage showing him walking away from her but with his hands up was released, if I'm not mistaken, either Sunday evening or Monday. According to the police and Officer Shelby's attorney, Scott Wood, they believe that Crutcher was under the influence of either drugs or alcohol and that he was possibly going to go for his car when he was walking away with his hands up. The attorney for the Crutcher family, however, Benjamin L. Krupp and Demario Salmon Simmons, has said that the window was up. And they know this because Crutcher's blood was splattered on the window. So there was no way that he was going to be able to reach into the car and open the door from outside and try to run away, even if he was thinking that. There were 3 other officers on the scene. One of them actually had a taser gun. So why not use the taser if you really felt that he was going to try to fake walk and crip walk into the car and drive away? Again, this is where pigs love to lie, but then this is also, I'm about to get into, where the state defends the pigs, because by law, the state wants police officers to do what they did to Terence Crutcher. First, I want to say this. We need to get out of this mindset that cops, when these things happen, that this is about a couple of bad cops. Or now, I'll even go so far as to say that it's just about racist cops, because it's really about institutionalized racism. Again, I need to point to the way class structure and the state play a role into incidences like this. When you have legislation that clearly states that police officers can use any form of force in any situation, then they are justified in shooting someone. What more evidence do we have? Well, we know that if there's legislation that allows the cops to have unbound hands to murder people, then in turn they demand upon their officers to always have the kind of outcome that we've seen in this incident with Crutcher. Why do I say this? In May, in Weirton, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, in Weirton, West Virginia, a police officer by the name of Stephen Motter found himself confronted with a black man who had a gun. Now, Stephen Motter is a former Marine, was responding to a report of a domestic incident. When he came onto the scene, a young man by the name of Ronald D. R.J. Williams, 23, had a gun, but it was not pointed at the officer. Officer Mater, or formerly Officer Mater, now they were still outside of the home of Mr. Williams, so Officer Mater, who was actually behind Mr. Williams' parked car, he began to use a calm voice. He told him that he wanted him to put the gun down. But then Mr. Williams actually asked the officer to shoot him. I want to paint this picture again. This is an African-American male with a gun in his hand asking this white officer to shoot him. And the white officer instead referred to his situational training that supposedly police get, but they don't seem to fucking use ever. But then again, the state wants that to be that way. Tried to talk the man out of it. He knew what the situation was. He knew that this young man, Mr. Williams, was asking for a suicide by cop. Now, we don't know how successful or how far Officer Mater was going to get with Williams, but we do know this. 2 other fellow officers of Weirton arrived at the scene, and Mr. Williams, obviously still with the gun in his hand, walked towards them, waving the gun around, which, by the way, this gun was unloaded. One of the cops shot Mr. Williams in the back of his head, just behind his right ear, an instant kill. A month-long West Virginia State Police investigation did find that the shooting was justified, which that's what they're going to do. I mean, somebody has a gun, officers immediately see that and know that that's a justifiable kill, no way around it, and that's what they did. They killed him. Thing is that Officer Mater, the cop who was the first on the scene, the cop who tried to convince Mr. Williams to drop his gun, the cop who did not instantly feel the need to take this man's life, obviously seeing that this man was under a duress and actually wanted to die. After the month-long investigation, or during it, he was put on the normal protocol of taking time off after an officer-involved shooting. When he came back to work on May 17th, he was told to go see the police commander, Rob Alexander. In a meeting with the chief and city manager, Travis Blosser, Mr. Mater, said that Chief Alexander told him, "We're going to put you on administrative leave and we're going to do an investigation to see if you are going to be an officer here. You put 2 other officers in danger." On June 6th, they basically told him that he was terminated from his job. From the Supreme Court, I believe it was 1982, I have the link in the low bar about the legislation that protects the police in all cases like this, and basically giving them carte blanche to always use force. But here's a situation where the superiors justified firing Officer Mater because he actually tried not to kill someone. So when you think of these officers must take all the accountability of the murders that they commit, don't get me wrong, but understand that it is the state that protects them. And if it's the state that protects them, it's the ruling class that they're doing all this for. They want killers is what they want. So why would they want RoboCops, you ask? Well, it's pretty obvious, I think. Whether we're out there rioting in the streets because of one more death by the police, or whether labor disputes and protests from working people, like we've seen back in 2011 in Wisconsin, when 100,000 protesters had occupied the Capitol Rotunda against Governor Walker's 2011 Wisconsin Act 10. Or fuck it, when we finally get to the point to where people are out there rioting in the streets because the last grocery store has run out of food, you're gonna need RoboCops to keep the peace, i.e. kill us all, keep us scared and off the streets while the rich remain protected. So that is why they want RoboCops. All right, y'all, just be patient with me. I do have videos coming. I'm not going anywhere. On that you can rely. Somebody thought that I'm thinking about quitting. Why the fuck would I do that? I got way too much shit to talk about, and shit like this keeps happening. This is the Garage Autonomist.